So Jason,
All right.
what have you decided? Now that we've had this conversation for the umpteenth time, my brilliant advice has led to you to this decision. What is it? Two lifelong friends document and share their personal stories as they seek financial independence and to retire early. One reaches FIRE in 2020 during a global pandemic, inspiring the other to play catch up. This is Two Sides of FI.
Well, it's been about 4 months now since I graciously broke up with my financial advisors and went out on my own.
Huge surprise. I'm glad you did it, man. I'm curious to know how it went down. Give us a little timeline because, we publish these videos. There's a little bit of a lag between when we record them and when we actually get to edit them and publish them. So tell me how it all happened.
Well, to your point, we had our conversation that we recorded at the end of November, and I was pretty sure by the end of that call that I knew where I laid, but like all big decisions, I tried to sleep on it, and the next day was resolved to take the step. And
that was quick.
Lorri was on board with, well, like we talked about, I was pretty sure I was there, but it really helped me talking through it and thinking about the pros and cons, because of course you argued both ways, which is fair. But I was pretty sure, after that call and the next morning I was on board. So I texted my financial advisors and basically just said, can we set up, 10, 15 minutes sometime to go over a question I have? And what was unexpected was they just called me right back.
Yeah, they knew it was happening, man. Yeah.
And I was like out and about. I was downtown, like doing some errands. And so now I'm like ducking into an alley, like taking a call, like kind of, finding my words like in the moment.
Yeah.
So
right. Not you're a hyper planner, so not
I am.
Your ideal situation, not what you were expecting. But did they try and keep you? Did they?
I mean, I think there was one, very polite, comment at one point after I had, kind of expressed what I was aiming to do and said, well, if you were uncertain in any way or had questions, I would try to, convince you to stay. But to the conversation we had, I just said that I was, appreciative of the time we'd had together. I found great benefit in it and appreciated our relationship, but I was ready to graduate and take this on myself. And like you said in our conversation, they weren't surprised. They saw it coming. Maybe it was that 90-minute meeting that we talked about. I don't know. But I mean, it was a really good call. I didn't expect anything different. It's a really positive relationship. And just said, okay, send us an email and with it in writing, and we'll talk about what we need to do to part ways. And, best wishes to you.
Yeah. Had you ever considered trying to negotiate the fee? It's an asset under management structure that you were operating under. Had you considered saying, hey, what if you did 0.5%?
Yeah, I didn't, honestly, they landed in pretty much a very middle of the road place in terms of their fee schedule when I had looked at the options out there, either when I signed up with them or later on. So I knew that they were in a good spot. It wasn't being taken advantage of in any way. But no, it didn't really occur to me to say, well, I would stay if you kind of cut your fees. I don't know, it didn't seem right. And I honestly don't think they have a tough time getting good clients.
Well, I was going to say, if people try and negotiate fees with me, and I am not the cheapest architect in this area by a long shot. And when I have a client who comes to me and says, yeah, I really, really want to work with you, but can you cut your fee in half? That's a red flag to me, number one. But also, when they start using comparisons like, oh, well, I can work with this architect and they're only charging, a 5% fee. And I just say, that's great. You absolutely should work with them. And you should also ask yourself how the service is going to be different.
Right. That makes sense.
There's something in there, that 5% that they're not charging. So you have to ask yourself, what am I giving up? Boy, that's a really tricky thing. And knowing who these advisors are, I would just guess they would have said, good luck to you, man.
Yeah, they don't have to. I'm sure they would have, very politely declined that, they keep a consistent fee schedule or something like that, which, totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I really respect that, actually. So you were with these guys 7 years, something like that?
Yeah, I think about 7 years.
Yep. What changed? What gave you the confidence to say, all right, I'm ready to graduate?
Well, I think it was first and foremost just the accumulation of knowledge and experience I got working with good advisors. They taught me a lot along the way. And then certainly in the last now almost 2 years since I stopped working, I've spent just so much more time with my portfolio,
Yeah.
really understanding my goals very clearly, my spending and the role of everything in my portfolio, and just decided, to your point, graduated is a good word. I felt like I knew what I needed to know. And so that trepidation kind of went away when I was honest with myself and reflected on what was really giving me pause. These were things easily resolved, and talking through that just made that much more clear.
Yeah. I think you had a lot of value created when they set up the plan, the
Yeah,
portfolio, right? You're
totally.
operating it through the transition phase into FI, and then you had the kind of training wheels on. They're in the co-pilot seat with you while you're navigating the first basically 2 years of your early retirement. And to me, see, you got all the value you possibly could out of them, and probably
Yeah.
more given the number of questions I know you asked of them. So yeah, it feels like it was an appropriate time to graduate. What has changed in terms of handling your portfolio? Are you looking at it more often, or is it like a quarterly check-in, or how is that going?
Yeah, I mean that you asked the right question. I think, going forward, it's going to be basically quarterly at this point.
Okay.
In the first month or two, I was in there a lot more often because I was setting things up. I had some changes I wanted to make, and I know we're going to talk about that. And I needed to be in there to do those things and, do the streamlining that I wanted to do, et cetera. And so in the first month, maybe 6 weeks, I was in there, probably a few times a week doing some of that work. But now that that's passed, now, like I say, about 4 months later, yeah, it's definitely pretty rare at this point, unless I have something to do.
Okay, so you're not like me.
I'm not like you in this respect.
Okay. Yeah.
But especially, but to be fair, Eric, we've had a lot of volatility
Well, I was going to ask
over
you about
recent
that.
months.
Yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
here, let's pick 4 months of very different market conditions than, last year, 2021,
Yeah.
right? So
Surprise.
end of December, early, first couple of months of 2022 have been pretty up and down. Are you glad you don't have co-pilots anymore? Are you sad? Are you mad? How are you feeling?
I feel very fortunate because the things I wanted to do from a timing perspective, I got done at sensible points in time. And then once we did start to have churn and still had a couple of things I wanted to do, I was able to do some tax loss harvesting, for example, and get out of funds more easily from a gains perspective and taxes I might have realized into the funds I wanted to be in. So
Yeah.
I want to be clear that I didn't make like insane amounts of huge sweeping changes because, like you said, I had a great plan that I felt very comfortable with. But the tweaking I needed to do, I got to do at times where it made sense. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say there were moments of pause where I was watching the market swing wildly, like, yeah, it was kind of nice not having to think about it so actively. But on the same note, I also knew it was like a little artificial because I just happened to have stuff that was having me in my account more than I wanted to be, or more than I would usually be, I should say. And so I was just more aware of daily volatility. But now that I'm not in there as much, I mean, I might hear, on the news or something that there's a drop or something, but I'm not noticing it to the same degree. So I think over time, yeah, for sure, the answer is I feel okay.
As an outside observer of this, watching you work through the sort of questions that you had with your financial advisors and seeing all the value that you got with them, I feel like you kind of lucked into this really great relationship, because I know, having spoken with other people, that not everyone has that same experience. Like, not every financial advisor has your best interests in mind all the time. They're not always thinking about every sort of nuanced, personal situation, and how to fine tune and tweak your portfolio, like I know your financial advisors were.
Yeah.
It also strikes me that you weren't completely hands off. And I know some people hire financial advisors and think, oh, they got this, I don't have
Yeah.
to check in. Some people just say it's on autopilot, I'm good. And I think it really does bear some check-ins. Like, I mean, maybe not every quarter, but I mean, maybe just when you're getting started, it's more often, and just trying to get a
Yeah.
feel for how, is this operating the way I think it should? Like, what do the expenses look like? Because I know your advisors were very clear about what this is costing. They were very, forthright and upfront
Yeah.
about it.
Upfront.
And that's a big part of what you're spending a significant 1% is a lot of, that's a big fee. So
Yeah.
it can be significant, and you should be confident that you're getting the value out of that, and that they have your interests in mind, that they can field the questions that are important to you, and not just presume that everything they're putting you in is the right thing. You ask some very pointed questions about, hey, what about the expense ratio on this fee? When I put the expense ratio from this fund on top of your fee, it's like, doesn't feel right to me. And they walked you through it, right?
Yep,
and
they did.
I think it does mean people can't just set it and forget it. I don't think this is one of those cases where you can do that.
Well, I mean, candidly, I think a lot of the reason that a portion of the people who work with advisors under AUM do it because it is very hands-off.
Yep.
They don't have the interest in digging in deep and learning the stuff. They're probably not going to ask a lot of questions. And I suppose that does add risk. If they happen to find themselves with advisors either not as capable or not as forthcoming as the individuals I worked with, that could and is taken advantage of sometimes, totally. Inadvertently or intentionally. I fear from some of the things I've read online, and that, to the comment you made in that episode, right? There's a reason that reputationally question is raised sometimes. I think I would put it that there is at least a lot more risk if you take a completely hands-off, step back approach to working with advisors. I think even if you do decide an AUM model is a good fit for you, you want to be engaged, ask good questions, because that's what conceivably you're paying for, a full service. Right. And so if you're not getting it, there's probably better ways to work with somebody.
So speaking of other ways to work with somebody, this is a good setup for a future episode of ours.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. So there are other ways of working with financial advisors. Assets under management is one that is often criticized in the FIRE community. And we know the drawbacks of that. Yeah. We work really hard to keep our expense ratios low. And so you and I actually hired financial advisor on a one-time fee arrangement, right?
Yep, that's right.
And it'll be fun to dig into that, because now we have the comparison of the assets under management crew, and we have the one-time fee guy. We get to compare and contrast. I can't wait to share that with people, because we actually learned a lot.
We did. Absolutely. It'll be fun.
Cool, man.
Cheers.